If you're a fan of Real Chat, head to iTunes and please give us a review. The more positive reviews we have, the easier it is for other film fans to find our podcast. And now, this week's episode of Real Chat.
Real Chat episode 56, Man of Steel 2 featuring Batman. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Master Wayne. Thermal imaging is showing me 24 hostiles on the 3rd floor. Why don't I drop you off on the 2nd?
Slow in my old age, Alfred.
Even you got too old to die young, not for lack of trying.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race. If we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. God versus man. Day versus night.
You're psychotic.
That is a 3-syllable word for any thought too big for little minds.
I've known a few women like you.
Oh, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me.
The oldest lie in America is that power can be innocent.
Still no tagline. What? What's going on? Although I have seen the really unimaginative Who Will Win or The Battle is Bigger in IMAX posters floating around the movie cinemas. Everybody, welcome to episode 56 of Real Chat, a podcast that promises week in, week out, the real world as we know it. Director Zack Snyder's unimpressive 2013 Superman reboot, Man of Steel, flirted with some intriguingly adventurous ideas before descending into a thunderingly dull third-act punch-up between all but indestructible and uninteresting adversaries. Little has changed with this latest installment, which sees DC Comics characters gearing up for the future Justice League outings, hoping to give Marvel's saleable screen universe a run for its money. After working our way through the recent cinematic incarnations of Batman and Superman, the dawn of justice is finally upon us. We've all seen the movie. We're thoroughly exhausted, exhilarated, or downright CBF'd, and we're ready to go deep into the spoiler zone. So make sure you've seen Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice before you listen to this episode of Real Chat, or just listen to our episode, whatever you prefer, Brose. So,
Well, I can guarantee the episode will be shorter than the film, if that's any incentive. 100% Zack Snyder free, I think, on this podcast. There'll be mentions of him, but he won't appear.
He won't appear. That's
won't
a
affect
good thing.
us.
Yeah, my name's Adam Stolfo, and I'm joined here by regular co-host and good friend Brose Avard. Brose, Batman or Superman?
I'm a Batman man from way back. Always have been, always will be. Batman's the greatest superhero of all time. Easy. Batman versus Superman, Batman wins.
Stuart Wilson has returned for some more Batman-Superman action. Stu, Batman or Superman?
Batman. Yeah, sure.
There we go. And returning as well to Real Chat, we haven't seen him for a while.
No, we
Trevor
haven't.
Wood. Trev, how's it going?
It is really good to be back here to talk about the really crap version of Batman after just
Sorry, Trev.
3 great episodes.
Sorry, Trev.
Reveling in good Batman, and it's like, come back because we've got the shit now.
So the question begs, Batman or Superman?
Definitely Batman.
Oh, there you go. Round the board. Batman at this end as well.
Yeah,
there we go.
there we go.
Now, in June 2013, Warner Brothers announced that director Zack Snyder and screenwriter David S. Goyer would return for a Man of Steel sequel with the studio considering a 2015 release for the film. Heavily inspired by the Dark Knight Returns comic, in November 2013, Snyder clarified that the film would not be based on this graphic novel. He says, if you were going to do that, you would need a different Superman. We're bringing Batman into the universe that now this Superman lives in. And the film's official title, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, was revealed in May 2014. Snyder stated that having the V in the title instead of verses was a way to keep it from being a straight versus movie, even in the most subtle way.
It's still a versus movie.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And Henry Cavill later stated, I wouldn't call this a Superman sequel. This is Batman vs. Superman. It's a separate entity altogether. It's introducing the Batman character and expanding upon the universe, which was kicked off by Man of Steel.
Superman film.
Yeah, and Forbes noted that although the film originated as a sequel to Man of Steel, it was revamped into a backdoor pilot for Justice League and or an eventual standalone Batman movie. So this was going to be a number of different things, and it's been shaped into this, all in preparation for Justice League.
That doesn't bode well, does it?
And the film feels like that.
There is a massive panic, it seems, from the DC universe to catch up with the Marvel universe.
Or because of the Avengers.
But meanwhile, the Avengers universe is starting to get heavy and you know, could implode. So why are we chasing this thing that might not be as successful? Why not go our own way and come up with our own...
I'm familiar with that interpretation that they're rushing because they're not doing 5 prequels before they get to their version of Avengers. But in that case, they are doing something different. You could also argue that they are doing it differently. As to whether they're rushing or not, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously they're going with the more popular characters first.
Well, the plan obviously was to do the backstory films, and then Green Lantern flopped like a bastard, like me in a pool.
Yeah, but there was no hint that Green Lantern was really going to lead to anything bigger in the movie itself.
Well, the idea was at least to make it leave the door open for it to be...
Thor doesn't lend itself to the Avengers, though, the first one.
Yeah. It's just consistent enough to say... anything we write would fit into this.
Except that he comes to Earth.
But there's a lead in to Thor in the previous Marvel movie before that.
Yeah, I know, but that's how Marvel do things anyway. Yeah. They're working on a meta level that's ridiculous.
I always thought of Green Lantern as their way of doing, let's try and do the colourful, more family-friendly superhero thing that Marvel did, as opposed to our Nolan films. It didn't work, so they went, let's make more Nolan-esque films, which is why Man of Steel was a weird kind of Nolan hybrid.
So, Brose, what are your initial thoughts on this one? How do you feel about this movie?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I guess part of it was I didn't want to hate it because it's Snyder, and the weird thing that happened to me was that every time Snyder did something stupid, and he does it plenty of times in this film, I just kind of forgave him on the spot and just kept going. And it's a bizarre thing. Like, you're right, there's far too many dream sequences in this film. It's ridiculous. The whole Doomsday thing at the end is ridiculous and excessive and unnecessary. But I just kind of went along with it, and I was fine. I don't know, there are little things that I quite like. The casting of Bruce Wayne's father is great. Like, it's one of the best Thomas Waynes we've had, because he looks like Thomas Wayne should. He's a big, strong, physical kind of man.
And I think we were listening to the real chat about Batman Begins. We said we need a Thomas Wayne with a moustache that Tom Selleck would be jealous of.
There you go.
And we got that in this interpretation.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed
Whether or not we needed that whole sequence at all, because is there anybody alive in this universe
that doesn't know the backstory?
Yeah.
But it was a really beautifully shot sequence, though. It was a really nice version of that happening. And it's repeated in the comic books ad nauseum, so we can do it in the films. I got a really strong sense they're trying to be a comic book film here. They're trying to put in as many comic book things. And this is Goyer's thing. He's trying to cram pack it full of things that have happened in comics before. They're not trying to create a movie separate of that world anymore. And maybe it fails, but I don't know. I still enjoyed it.
What do you think, Stu? What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Mainly that I was excited to talk about it today, because the thing about Man of Steel is it was poor, but more importantly, it was quite dull. And that's what we found in the podcast. But this film has many, many, many flaws, but it's by no means dull for me.
Yeah, it's not dull.
This film's not dull.
It's a provocative film. There's so many... I think I best described it as the kind of roller coaster where half the time you're having an amazing time and you're like, this is so much fun. This is this wonderful thrill ride. And the other half of the time you're saying, wait, no, this is too scary. I want to get off. And that's what the whole film was like for me. So there'd be moments where I go, wow, this is amazing. And other moments where I go, oh God, what am I watching? This is ridiculous. So I kind of liked the fact that it was such a provocative film where Man of Steel was just kind of boring in the end.
Yeah, something interesting with this film, when I came out of the cinema, I said, I enjoyed that a lot more than Man of Steel. I got something out of that. the more and more I thought about it in depth, I thought about the storyline and what they were trying to do, I started disliking it by the minute.
It got worse.
It got worse.
Yeah.
And
Well, see,
it's
I
still
mean,
getting worse.
Just probably worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a new release film. It's in cinemas right now as we record this. I saw it this afternoon. I walked out of the cinema about 2:30 this afternoon because I always leave plenty of time to prepare for real chat.
So that means you walked in at like 9 a.m.? Is that right?
It was an 11:30 showing. You saw it last Tuesday.
I saw it at a preview screening.
Last Tuesday, and you saw it on Thursday. You
Thursday.
saw it
Sunday night.
Sunday night. So you three have had a lot more time to gestate and think about this film than I have.
It's actually kind of getting a bit better in my mind, strangely. But I think possibly in response to, because particularly the critical response has been so negative, there kind of seems to be a disparity there with the audience response, which we'll talk about. But I think part of me has seen some of the more extreme arguments as to why it's bad, which I don't agree with, and I'm kind of mulling it over, and it's getting a bit better.
Yeah.
And what about yourself, Trev?
I had a similar response. I came out of the cinema and people said, "What did you think?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure." And then the next day, by about the same time the next day, I was like, "Yeah, I didn't like it." There were a few things that kind of I'd think about a sequence and go, "Why was that there?" Or just so many issues with the film. And there are some great sequences that we start to see some really cool things. Mm-hmm. But the cohesiveness, what I think Snyder really loves is to be slavish to the visuals that he loves. He was a massive Watchmen, the book fan, and so his film is there's
Visually, it's a tribute.
Shot for shot is the film.
Do you get the feeling that Zack Snyder doesn't read, though? He just looks at pictures?
I think kind of in this case, it was a matter of he was slavish to the visuals, but he just, I need to cram this visual in here, I need to cram that visual in here, and in the end, what was the point of that visual other than having it there?
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because people that I've spoken to that aren't comic book people about this film before I'd seen it asked the question, why? Batman versus Superman, why? Why would they fight? Why?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things this film doesn't do successfully is justify why. The idea that Batman will be wrapped up in what looks like a political manhunt, which has nothing to do with Batman, is really poorly executed. And I kept waiting for them to give me a better reason why Batman's so angry at Superman.
I think they really tried. They did a really good job of reverse engineer, apologizing for Man of Steel's violence. The third act, it destroys Metropolis, and a lot of people said that they de-heroized Superman because Superman, and you guys mentioned on the podcast, the fact that he stepped out of the way of threats. Look, this is the consequences of that, and therefore that film now makes sense.
Which is what Stu alluded to in the Man of Steel episode, was that the destruction of Metropolis seemed unnecessary, but it is dealt with in this film. Did you get the payoff you wanted?
Kind of. It just didn't occur in the way I expected. I did enjoy the opening scene with seeing the destruction of Metropolis from Bruce Wayne's point of view, and that was really, really exciting. Seeing it at ground level, I quite enjoyed that. No, I love the fact that it tied into the other film. I thought that was really well
I like
done.
that as well.
Yeah.
And I know you explained it to me as well, Brose, as well. You explained to me, from a comic book fan's perspective about, that it's quite okay to have Batman and Superman.
Yeah, well, the first Batman vs. Superman comic was 1964 from the research I've done. Would that be about right?
Yeah, so
it's been going on for 50 years.
Batman and Superman were owned by the same company since 38, 39, and they shared titles. Like there was a comic called World's Finest that ran from the mid-40s from memory, but they never actually appeared in a story together until 64.
Right.
Yeah.
As a movie fan, it's a very, very hard thing to come in and, to be shown after everything we've been shown previously. That's all.
It's exactly as the prophecy foretold in I Am Legend. Did you not see that film with the Batman v Superman poster up in the background behind Will Smith? You realise that all those crazy zombie vampire people are coming next.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly how things are going to play out.
Oh, yes.
I didn't see I Am Legend.
So Batman v Superman is a Warner Brothers, Atlas Entertainment, DC Comics, DC Entertainment, and Rat Pack June Entertainment release, Brose.
Wow, cram them in.
You've got to get the $250 million from somewhere.
That's true.
It was released on the 25th of March 2016 in the US and the 24th of March 2016 in Australia.
Wow, bang.
So all these new releases that we're looking at, Brose. It was shot in Michigan, Illinois, New Mexico, and DC in the USA, with a budget of an estimated $250 million. And so far, it has grossed approximately $420.1 million. Okay? Now,
Is that worldwide or is that just the US?
It's worldwide so far, all right? Okay. So Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice tore up the box office this past weekend, since we're recording this, making $166.1 million in the States and another $254 million in foreign sales for a total take of approximately $420.1 million. These numbers make it the biggest superhero movie opening ever for Warner Brothers, the biggest Easter weekend movie in history, and the 5th best opening in North American movie history.
Jesus.
But for all those achievements, a new report indicates that the film has also broken a more dubious record. According to Forbes, Batman v Superman has set a new record for the biggest Friday to Sunday box office drop for a modern superhero movie. The film dipped 55% from its $82 million Friday debut to its $37 million gross on Sunday. To break that down, the gross has declined 38% Friday to Saturday and another 27% from Saturday to Sunday. By comparison, Forbes cites the Fantastic Four reboot's decline from last summer, which only dropped 48% Friday to Sunday. Batman v Superman received a lukewarm B cinema score for American audiences. These exit polls are frequently used within the industry to gauge word of mouth on a film. Mm-hmm. So it's got a couple of interesting records there.
Yeah,
you don't hear this every day.
It doesn't sound like it's going to have the staying power, does it?
Definitely not. It doesn't. It's not tracking down.
The opening record wasn't a surprise. You could release Superman, Batman playing chess, and it's going to get a massive turnout.
Why are they playing chess?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
And why do the horses move like that?
Why do they move in an L shape? That's bizarre.
Now, the director of the film is the returning Zack Snyder, Brose's favourite. We all know who he is. After this, Zack has both Justice League movies on this slate, which will see Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman sharing the screen with The Flash, Aquaman and Cyborg. Is there anything different in Zack Snyder this time around, though, Brose?
Not his worst film.
It's fair.
No.
That's a fair comment.
I think I've finally realised, though, what it is that bothers me with Zack is that he has these glorious operatic moments of tragedy or high emotion or big wham-bam action moments that are really good in isolation, but it doesn't feel like he's earned them. So there's these moments where I'm going, wow, that was a really awesome moment. I wish I'd cared up until this point. That happened. And that's that kind of thing. If he's aiming for that visual that he saw on that splash panel on that comic book, and he's going to get there no matter what. But it's sometimes he just can't quite get there because there are so many moments, isolated moments in this film that I loved. It's just that the whole thing wasn't very cohesive.
He does cram them in too a bit. Every now and then he'll do a big emotional moment and it's like, oh, come on, buddy, let's just push past this. Again, the dream sequences is probably a good illustration of that. Too many of them, too often, but they're big moments for him. They're big, impressive shock moments, emotional moments. He goes overboard. I thought his third act was much better than Man of Steel, and I enjoyed... The two things that happened. I thought the action was much better directed for him this time around. It wasn't those really fast rush kind of lightning kind of speed action shots like he does in Man of Steel. It's a little bit easier to follow. It's a little bit more interesting. Except with the Doomsday stuff, which I'd rather just ignore. But my other point is, sorry, just quickly, is he kind of ruined the end of this film with the third act in Man of Steel because it was so over the top and ridiculous and violent and destructive. This didn't feel violent and destructive enough. And Doomsday in the comic books is one of the most devastating characters in the history of the Superman story, and it didn't seem devastating enough after what Zod did in the...
Well, he was only around for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
very bizarre.
The build-up for Doomsday in the comics basically has... It was a long lead-up with Doomsday starting on the other side of the country and trashing, and every superhero in the shared universe trying to stop him until Superman made the final stand. And therefore it had some gravitas. But hey, here's someone we just created. Actually, we stole it from Lord of the Rings. It's a troll. It
does look a lot like a Peter Jackson troll too, yeah.
And we see it for 5 minutes.
So what you're saying is you missed out on seeing Blue Beetle's head crushed in the door of a car. That's what you wanted. That's really what you wanted.
That's really,
It's funny, Bruce, you said that about the action, because this is the first time I've not been able to follow action in a Snyder film. For me, this was like watching a Transformers movie. And I know I was a lot closer to the screen than I'd like to be, but the combination of darkness, lots of fast cutting. Like, I'm thinking about the
Jeez.
car chase.
Like watching a Michael Bay film. Jeez,
Well,
that's
the
not
action
good.
was. Because the thing is, at least with Zack Snyder, I
big
can
insult.
always tell what's going on, even if I don't
Yeah,
like it.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't know.
The car chase was just darkness and explosions. I had no idea what was going on after. Oh, the car flipped, I think. What? I don't know what he's doing. But anyway.
I don't know. I thought the Batman-Superman fight was really well shot and really well done. And like I said, Doomsday just shouldn't even be there. So I guess I just blanked it
A
out.
lot of the the Batman-Superman fight, that's on the page in The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
There's some really beautiful, iconic moments from this film. They've all come from the comics.
And the David S. Goyer, whose writing credits are all over all these films at the moment, Brose. He's everywhere, isn't he? So-
Yeah, and the more we look at Goyer's work, the more it just seems like Goyer is like a massive comic book nerd, and he spends the whole time when they're pitching ideas just pitching out of his favourite books. That's the feeling I get. Any Dark Knight Returns stuff is Goyer's input.
You could kind of argue that he kickstarted the whole comic book movie craze anyway with Blade.
Yeah,
And
no question.
to be honest, there wasn't much from the source material there with Blade, though. Because, of course,
Yeah.
there isn't much to draw from with
Yeah.
Blade. But he made a couple of good movies and then a third awful one. So
The cast, Brose, one of the biggest talking points has been Ben Affleck, who plays Bruce Wayne - Batman. One of the big additions to the cast here. A billionaire socialite and owner of Wayne Enterprises who dedicates himself to protect Gotham City from its criminal underworld as a highly trained masked vigilante. The funniest thing that's been coming out of all this talk has been, the amount of piss that's been taken out of Ben Affleck, including this little video that's been on YouTube recently as well, where he got interviewed alongside Henry Cavill, and he has this really sad look on his face.
Yeah, they're basically presented with the notion that reviewers are savaging the film, and Henry Cavill goes on to answer it at length. And,
who would dare to ask that question?
I know, that's a ballsy question, isn't it?
You can see it in their expressions as
I'm
well.
so
can't you?
impressed that Cavill managed to keep us, not punch the guy.
So-
I wouldn't
I know.
ask that question.
So Ben Affleck.
I think he's a good Batman. I think he does a really good job, especially he's an older Batman. He's not quite as injured and beaten up as Christian Bale is at the end of the Nolan series, which I prefer. I think he's great. I think he's a solid Bruce Wayne as well. There's a couple of Bruce Wayne moments that are a bit cringy, like when he goes down to the server room in Lex Luthor's house. That's a bit ridiculous that he would leave himself so open to be seen, and that's a bit shit.
I think, that moment where he's so serious and intent, and he's basically Batman without the cowl.
Yeah, and he should be being Playboy Bruce Wayne, acting a bit tipsy. He uses that line.
He had that amazing cover story. He was looking for the toilet.
Yeah.
He's like a super spy. Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think Ben Affleck's great in this. I think he's great as Batman. I think he's really good as Bruce Wayne.
He's
really impressed.
He's the world's greatest detective and the only person in that film who didn't know that Clark Kent was Superman. Everybody knew.
And in the comic books, he works it out, though, doesn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
I loved Ben Affleck as well. I love the fact that they managed to make a Batman that was so different from Bale's Batman.
So soon, too.
This was a guy that he's been Batman for 20 years, and because it's Batman, he can never get over the death of his parents. Because even though it sounds absurd, that he's still as screwed up
someone
as
that
he was. the
someone
day
that
they
rich
died.
can't afford counselling. So.
I know, but I mean, if he got over it, he wouldn't be Batman. But he was so plagued by nightmares and so screwed up. I really enjoyed that, and I love the
There are a
fact-
couple of Ben Affleck moments in this too when he's really angry, and I was a bit scared. It was so raw and emotional. Ben Affleck really brings it.
Plus, his whole training montage was awesome.
Oh my god!
I want to hit a tire with a sledgehammer like that.
There's a gym downstairs from my house. They do that all the time.
Oh, really?
They weigh the sledge.
He is fantastic, and all of the cast are fantastic. It's more about the characterization where it trips up, but the performances are never...
Did you get the feeling that Ben Affleck, because he's a huge Batman fan himself, he owns a Batmobile? Does he own a Burton Batmobile? Anyway, he's a massive Batman fan. Did you get the feeling he just didn't want to mess it up? He wanted to be asked back again? He just... had it,
he would have thought about it after Daredevil, though. He would have thought twice.
Yeah.
He is a massive fan, and there's a fantastic story where he apparently asked Warner Brothers, could he keep the suit after the film? And they came back and said, absolutely, but we'll need $100,000. And he said, can I have a photo with me?
Nice.
Henry Cavill returns as Kal-El, Clark Kent, or Superman. a Kryptonian survivor and a journalist for the Daily Planet who uses his superhuman abilities to protect the Earth. So how's he do this time?
I've got nothing to add. I thought he was good in Man of Steel, and I think he's good in this.
He's the same.
I think he's a really good Superman.
He carries it across, and he's a great Superman.
Yeah.
It bugs me that whilst I think he and Amy Adams have good chemistry, we're still given no explanation as to why they love each other. We never have.
Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
No, there's been no romance or anything else.
He got into a bath with his clothes on, so there's
that was very cute, though.
Yeah.
Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
I love his Lex Luthor in this film. I think Jesse Eisenberg is brilliant. I think he's manic, and I think he's insane, and he's brilliant, and he's like some type of cashed up evil Woody Allen or something. Like, it's just, I think he's great.
Sorry, this is Brose v. Stuart, Dawn of Disagreement. I 100% did not like his performance.
Me either.
And I was one of the few people that was excited about his casting, because I was like, we're just going to get the Mark Zuckerberg we saw in The Social Network as Lex Luthor, and that's going to be great. He's going to be, calmly, really intelligent, but a bit of a psychopath underneath. And instead, what we got was the Joker, and this weird, crazy guy with daddy issues. And I'm like, what?
Why on earth was Lex? He was just nuts. There was no reason.
I like to think his dad was Gene Hackman, though.
I like a facial tick, but did he have to have all of them? It was just...
Oh, you guys are hard.
He actually drove me mad in this film.
I like Eisenberg, but here it felt like he was acting the whole time.
Yeah, me too. Exactly.
Yeah. He's since come out and made comments that he's not happy with his performance.
Yeah, I did see that, even before the film came out.
Yeah, he did come out.
What is it with actors saying this before their films come out? Not helping, are they?
I don't understand, because they're about to have Suicide Squad, which is going to have a whole bunch of crazy people in it. Why do they need another crazy villain? Like, I just don't understand.
I liked him. I liked him. I thought he was great.
Am I right in thinking that he reflected no version of Lex that we'd seen before in comics? Or
there are a few... It's stitched together of a few different versions of Lex.
Okay.
In the past, he has had hair.
That's not the hair I'm bothered by.
Oh, no, I mean, that's the aesthetic connection, but he has been a raving lunatic. He's been a cool, calm businessman. He's been the tech genius, and sometimes, like in the very early ones, he was just a bald scientist, and it wasn't until the 80s that he really became the corporate mogul.
Mm-hmm. Gal Gadot as Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, 5,000-year-old Amazonian princess and daughter of Zeus. I think
she's fine.
She's just being set up for the next one.
Actually, I thought she was really exciting. I didn't think I was bothered that she didn't bulk up at all, because she's kind of huge in the comics.
Oh, really?
Well, she's got biceps and stuff, but that's fine. I thought when she appeared was one of the few times the film was actually fun.
Okay.
She brought joy. Like, everybody else was doing it through gritted teeth, and she came on and she punched the troll, and she looked like she was loving it. Like, this is a battle, and I'm a warrior. And so
was Olivia Munn rumoured to play Wonder Woman?
Well, she's going to be an X-Men.
I know she's going to be an X-Men, but she would be a great Wonder Woman.
Olivia Munn, I think, campaigned for it, and she's done photo shoots where she's wearing the costume, and I highly recommend finding those photos, because... the whole time I'm watching Gal Gadot, I'm just wanting Olivia Munn. But I think she's great in this.
She sold my ticket to Wonder Woman.
Okay.
That's the
I'm in for Wonder Woman. She's great.
Yeah, and Patty Jenkins directing sounds great. Yeah.
And what about Jeremy Irons' take on Alfred?
I love this Alfred as well.
Yeah?
Can I be too excited? I just can't work out how Alfred has enough time to do all of the repairs to everything Batman destroys in the Batcave and make him tea and coffee whenever he needs it.
To be fair, in the Nolan films, he apparently looked after the entire estate for most of those films.
On his own.
And that estate is now in ruins, and it's never explained.
I like that it's not explained.
Yeah. I know.
I'm waiting for the explanation. That's one of the other things I loved about this film. But yeah, I think Jeremy Irons... I spoke to Trevor after he'd seen it, and he said that Jeremy Irons was Alfred, and I'd rolled my eyes and kind of gritted my teeth. But I think he's really good. I like this version of Alfred. I like the rolling the sleeves up, getting involved. Although the age gap between Irons and Affleck seems a bit...
I think it's more that
dubious,
Irons just looks really good for his age. Sure.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I like Irons in this.
A few cast members returning from Man of Steel as well. Amy Adams, Diane Lane and Lawrence Fishburne. Anything to add in regards to their...
Diane Lane has less to do than she did in Man of Steel. That was her film.
Her first scene, you could tell that they'd cut a chunk out of her stuff out of this. Maybe it'll appear in a later version. But suddenly he needed to get a speech from her because she was going to be in peril 10 minutes later. We're like, oh, by the way, don't forget his mum. It's going to be important later.
There's also that moment, and quite a few reviewers have talked about the haphazard nature of the editing. There's a moment where Perry White, and we'll discuss it in a second, discussed it was, where does Clark go? Does he click his heels and go to Kansas? And then it cuts, and it doesn't cut to Kansas. It cuts to Lex Luthor, or it cuts to Batman, or wherever it cuts. That feels like there should have been a Martha Kent moment. And it's probably...
Yeah.
And another addition to the cast as well, Holly Hunter, as Senator Finch.
I thought she was fantastic. I felt like I haven't seen Holly Hunter for years.
Me too.
Years. But it was one of those...
I don't think I've seen a Holly Hunter film for a very long time.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was one of those situations where, like the Nolan films, where they got really good actors to be in these small roles, and I thought she brought a lot of gravitas to the role.
She was so strong. Yeah, I thought she was great.
Yeah.
My favourite scene in this film was definitely the actual Batman-Superman showdown with Batman in the armoured outfit and that battle in that sequence. That was the part which I got the most excited in and it happened few and far between for me during the course of this 2.5 hours. So, what about yourselves? Did you have any favourite scenes?
Yeah, I like the Batman-Superman fight. I thought it was like that's the big moment. You're waiting for Snyder to fuck up. And he didn't. He did it well. It was well paced. The energy was there. The emotion was there. Snyder to bring emotion into an action sequence is rare. It was well directed. Maybe that was done by the second unit. I always think that when there's a nice sequence in one of these films. But yeah, I love that scene as well. I thought it was really good.
Stu?
Either Bruce Wayne during the destruction of Metropolis, or indeed just Wonder Woman turning up in her outfit was pretty exciting.
That was very cool.
And the absurd theme song that she got playing every time she did something.
I think that's Junkie XL's contribution.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't Hans Zimmer.
No, it happened. It happened 2 times earlier as well when they looked at a photo of her in her outfit, and that theme came up again, and it was just hilarious in a good way. Though I like.
Well, apparently, actually, you said it's not Hans Zimmer, but apparently Hans has recorded themes for all of the Justice League ready to go.
We'll discuss that a little bit when we talk about the music as well. So, you got a favourite scene?
I do like the destruction of Metropolis again, because I think in this version we've got there's some weight to the scene, which doesn't exist in the original. Bruce saving Martha Kent, I think, is another one, because it's...
I'm a friend of your son's. That's nice.
But it's also the first time that Batman's heroic in the film.
Yeah.
Other than the Metropolis, but that's Bruce Wayne. But Batman, because up until that, he's just a dick.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of all the guns in this film either. Cause...
Why was Snyder so excited about the idea of having Batman with a gun? It's like, it's one of these weird things where technically, Batman didn't shoot anyone. But let's be honest, he killed a fair few people with guns. It was either a dream sequence or he shot them in the flamethrower tank, but not the person, so it doesn't count.
When he busts into that warehouse for the saving of Martha Kent, he grabs guns and shoots across. He shoots plenty of people, whether they die or not is a technicality. I don't like Batman with a gun. I know. I don't like the Batmobile with guns. I don't like the Batplane with a gun.
He doesn't shoot people, though. Snyder's made this clear. He went through, and every death is... I shot a gas tank that you happen to be carrying on your back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think that's... I don't know. That sequence where he's saving Martha Kent, I think he shoots at least 3 people in there.
I couldn't tell because it was too dark and I had trouble following the editing.
I think you were too close to the screen.
But I was. It did feel like it was taken directly from the Arkham Asylum games, though, so that was really cool.
Exactly. Just a quick question, though, before we move on. Why on earth would Batman ever get into a Batplane, ever? We've learnt in the history of Batman films that as soon as you get in the Batplane, it's going to crash.
It's going to crash.
It crashed in Burton's Batman. It crashed in Nolan's Batman. It crashed in this Batman. Just don't get in the plane. Where's the Batcopter from the 60s? Get in that bloody thing.
Because helicopters never crash.
No, well, just the plane has 3 times. Sometimes it's got a nuclear warhead attached to it. Just leave the plane alone.
The tagline, Unite the Seven, has been mentioned in reference to the upcoming Justice League film, though there's no mention of who the 7th member will be. Best Bet is currently a new version of Green Lantern, which we discussed a little bit before. So who do you guys think will work best as the 7th member of the Justice League?
I would have thought it's difficult because obviously they don't want to go near Green Lantern because everyone remembers the film. But Martian Manhunter is a pretty difficult sell to the average punter, I would have thought.
Yeah, they'll, I think, either Green Lantern, because that opens up the scope of the universe for them. They can start telling threats and stories from the universe. Or potentially Arrow, because Arrow is huge. The TV series.
Yeah, but they're not using actors from the TV series.
But they're using the Flash. The Flash is the TV series.
No, they're not using that actor, though.
No, I know, but there's nothing to stop them presenting a different version of...
Recasting
Who do you
Arrow.
think it'll be, bro?
I like the idea of Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter can get in between Batman and Superman when that tension arises. He's a credible force.
Oh yeah, his list of powers is absurd.
Oh, he's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hated Martian Manhunter when I first came across the character. I remember Super Friends. He wasn't involved in Super Friends, and then he popped up in other stuff I started consuming in the DC universe, and I didn't like him at all because I thought it was ridiculous. But I've grown to love that guy. I think he's a great character and an important character to put in the mix. I don't know if Green Lantern's adding anything to that Justice League, but Manhunter would.
Well, the only thing that makes me think of Green Lantern is that, Star Wars is big at the moment and they want more space opera. So that's why you go back to Green Lantern.
Do you think people are excited about it, Stu?
About Green Lantern or Justice League?
Justice League.
Well, I don't know. We got that wonderful moment in the film where Wonder Woman stopped and went on to YouTube and watched the teaser trailer for Justice League. That was nice.
Credit to Lex Luthor for getting his graphic design team to come up with logos for all these suspicious threats.
So Batman's extended post-apocalyptic dream sequence seems to hint at uber-villain Darkseid coming to Earth, perhaps foreshadowing the plot of Justice League.
Yeah.
And time-travelling Flash appears at the end of the dream sequence.
Gosh, I was so confused by that dream sequence because it went on for so long.
And he tells Bruce that Lois is the key?
Yeah,
is that what happened?
Is that time traveling Flash?
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on during that bit.
Yeah.
I might have checked my phone.
It's very confusing.
He wakes up from a dream,
and then he's still in a
second dream, and then wakes up again, and that was very confusing.
Actually, although I've heard that Zack Snyder slept through most of the film during production, so
I mean,
the evidence is on the screen.
But there is a suggestion that Lois is the key. Wasn't to do with this film because Lois wasn't the key to anything really.
But in the last film, she had the key and she had
That's
to
right.
push it in
it needs,
further.
Yeah, it needs to go in all the way.
To go in all the way. Yeah. So maybe it's a reference to Man of Steel.
Stu, what do you think we've had more of? Back to the Future dings or Brose having a crack at Zack Snyder? I don't know.
We need a sound for it.
Just a little bit of trivia here from Batman vs. Superman. The opening scene with the destruction of Metropolis features Bruce Wayne seeing a building destroyed by laser fire. The path of destruction directly matches up with the same scene shot from inside the building in Man of Steel when Zod unleashes his laser gaze. So,
which is pretty cool. Someone's put the two together online. You can go and watch it. And the path of the laser is exactly the same from inside the building. Yeah.
Oh, I want to look that up.
In an interview with Jimmy Fallon, Ben Affleck said he was warned by Warner Brothers about the positive-negative reaction to his casting and was advised to remain off the internet after the casting announcement.
He was also advised to stay off his nanny. He didn't listen to that one either.
yeah.
The studio advised that? Wow.
He also had concerns that the studio showed him negative comments that fans had initially made to previous superhero castings. Affleck said in spite of the studio warnings, he still checked out an online message board. The first comment he read was, "Affleck as Batman? No!" After seeing that, he immediately went offline.
It's a good move.
So I would say so as well.
I'm not sure if people remember that when Michael Keaton was announced as Batman. That was a tough time for comic book fans because, at that point they'd seen
but there was no message.
And what?
Mr. Mum.
Mr. Mum, his comedies from the early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, but there were no message boards to post on for the rest of the world to see at that stage.
Well,
so,
yeah.
a bit different. The moment that Superman grabs hold of Doomsday's bony protrusion is direct reference to the Death of Superman graphic novel, where moments before his death, Superman discovers he can hurt the previously unstoppable monster. Do you like this moment in the film, Bruce?
I wasn't a huge superhero comic book fan as a kid, but I was surrounded by superhero comic book fans. The Death of Superman, as soon as that stuff happened, it's like, yeah, okay, I've seen those images, I've seen those books. I haven't necessarily read them, but I've seen them. And there are a lot of moments for me. I mean, there's a lot of references to kind of 80s and early 90s comic books, Superman and Batman, that all had a very familiar air, which is probably why I was so relaxed watching the film. I enjoyed some of those visuals, and that was like a poster at one point, wasn't it? Superman grabbing the horn. Yeah.
Perry White says it's not 1938 anymore, while talking to Clark Kent about people not reading newspapers anymore. Of course, Superman was created in 1938. So
I chuckled at that. I thought that was really cute.
Nice little reference. A display case in the Batcave shows us Robin's costume with the Joker's mocking scrawl on it. It can be assumed that, as in the comics, the Joker killed Robin sometime in the last 20 years.
Have you heard the other theories?
What's that?
It's a complete theory. I apologize ahead if it turns out to be a spoiler, because I don't actually know. But the other theory is that perhaps the Joker in the Suicide Squad isn't the Joker we're familiar with, and it's actually one of the previous Robins.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the theory
rumor.
online. Yeah.
Okay. Superman's suit is considerably brighter in this film, with the blue of the suit being lighted to suit the comic version. The yellow background behind the S has been made into bright gold, and certain patterns in the suit have changed also, notably on the S. So do you think this was learning from some of the negative feedback to the suit on
I
the Man
think
of
so
Steel?
too. I like the improved suit, and I think also the contrast between Batman and Superman's a bit stronger when he's got a lighter suit. I like the new Superman suit. Are the strips on his arm new as well, where it's kind of instead of an arm band around his wrist, he's kind of got strips across his wrist?
Lines,
There,
was it?
there were lines on the... I know that there were changes to the wristbands and the belt, but
Yeah.
I think they were very small. The S has now got Kryptonian writing in it.
Yeah, right. Shope.
Minor changes.
Shope.
Yeah.
When discussing the film, Henry Cavill said that it would address a major issue that fans and critics have had with Man of Steel, involving the huge amount of collateral damage caused in the film's climax during Superman's battle with General Zod in Metropolis. Cavill said that future battle scenes in movies featuring Superman would involve him making sure to not harm civilians himself and protect them from the evil villains.
I'm not sure if we got that, but 3 times we had newscasters saying, it's a good thing there were no people around.
Can I say, like, as far as internal consistency, the whole catalyst for the first 2 acts was Batman resenting the destruction of Metropolis. And in the 3rd act, he has 2 choices. Run and get the spear and come back to fight Doomsday in an unpopulated location, or lure him to follow him into Gotham, where I'm assuming there are probably people. So, and he does that option. So don't get pissed at Superman if you're going to be a dick in the 3rd act of this film.
I could go say that spear bit bothered me, particularly because Lois chucked the spear into the water, and then 2 minutes later was like, oh, I have to go get the spear now. And then Superman saved her for the 2nd time in the same movie. It could have fallen in the water. Superman goes to get it. He starts to drown. Lois saves him. That's all they needed to do. Why did they do that?
It's a nice moment when Lois saves him, though. That was nice. I might have teared up a bit.
Not being a Vintage Vault episode, Brose, we obviously don't have any DVD or Blu-ray information for this film yet. We might look at that down the track, perhaps.
Perhaps, probably not.
But it's been announced that there will be an Ultimate Edition of the film available on home media. This will receive an American R rating and will be 30 minutes longer, oh, God help us, than the theatrical cut. Snyder has stated that the violence included in this cut only just tips it over the edge, rather than becoming a hard R film. Are you looking forward to that, Brose? 30 more minutes of this?
Look, this is the one big fat negative from Deadpool being so successful, is that someone in Hollywood has looked at that and decided that R-rated films are what people want all of a sudden. And we don't. We just want well-developed characters and a half-decent plot and not, action sequence we can follow.
And how good is The Dark Knight and there's little violence?
That's right. Deadpool was a great film, but it's not because it's R-rated. And there's a whole bunch of films now that have been announced that are going to be R-rated in the States, and I don't know. I guess if it sells extra tickets for the studio, they're going to do it. But
I mean, it is consistent with Snyder's track record. I mean, there's no reason why Watchmen had to be R-rated, but it was.
Yeah.
And that was only because 300 made so much money and was one of the biggest openings, R-rated openings, or the highest grossing, or something.
But there wasn't 30 minutes of violence taken out of this film, all right? So there's going to be a hell of a lot of exposition scenes and character moments and stuff. And
I mean, at the end of the day, Batman v Superman requires the same type of director's cut that The Hobbit needed, which is, instead of a 2.5-hour version, show us a 2-hour version and we'll all enjoy it a lot more. And The Hobbit, I just wanted the 3 films edited into one film that is just what's in the book. But, I mean, we don't need a 3-hour version of this film.
Yeah. Get rid of Pa Kent.
Yeah. How weird is that on the hill?
So Pa Kent once again been telling the story that the moral of the story is don't be a hero, son.
Yeah, although it is the repeat of Kevin Costner building something and someone showing up. So,
yeah.
Shades of Field of Dreams there.
So, yeah, what do you reckon, Brose? Do you reckon you'll be tracking down this movie when it comes out, or no chance?
No.
What about the Zack Snyder commentary? Will that...
No.
That won't change anything?
No.
Okay.
I'm excited for the Ben Affleck Batman film if it ever happens.
Yeah.
That directed by and starring. That sounds great.
Now, the soundtrack and score to this film, one of these composer collaborations that we've done recently, Brose. So it was good old every second film made Hans Zimmer.
He's a busy man.
Very busy man. Alongside Junkie XL. And now we've looked at one of his films. That was Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, and he did a great job on Mad Max Fury Road. And I think the Junkie XL elements of this score are really good. There's a freshness to them. There's an energy to them that Zimmer doesn't necessarily have in this film, and I liked it.
What I thought was really strange is that Zimmer doesn't usually deal in obvious character-specific themes. You know, the way that John Williams does. As soon as someone comes on the screen, you're like, oh, there's their theme. This film, however, clearly had themes. Wonder Woman was the most obvious. Lex Luthor's theme I really enjoyed as well. And yeah, it was really interesting to see him actually dabble. And I can imagine it's going to be chaotic for Justice League.
There's no time for any other music, just character themes.
So Zimmer's original plan for the soundtrack was to have himself work on the Superman themes while have Junkie XL do the Batman themes. In the end, however, it was more of a collaboration all the way through, apparently. Was it just me, or is there a little bit of Elfman Batman in this score as well?
There is! There's a great Elfman Batman moment, and I wet my pants.
Couple of times.
I was so excited. Yeah.
But it's almost like they want to change the last note.
Yeah.
But like it's definitely there.
There's a little subtle Danny Elfman reference to the Batman themes in this.
Oh, don't make me go back and watch this film.
It really is.
Just
it'd be worth it for that.
So you definitely picked it up.
Yeah, I picked it up too.
I've bought the soundtrack and listened to it half a dozen times, and I don't know what you're talking about. So I'll have to check it out.
Maybe it's not on there. Yeah, maybe it's not one of the tracks included. But because it was only featured twice. But it was there.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment. I always get excited when I
did find it kind of cool that the I'm not sure specifically which theme it is. The main, most triumphant theme from Man of Steel only appeared just as he used the spear.
And you know what? Cool. I actually felt that it worked better in this film than it did in Man of Steel.
But is that because
Hans Zimmer's theme from the previous one?
Was that because we hadn't heard that Superman theme up until that point? It came back just in his death throes.
Maybe.
That was kind of exciting.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they held back.
Yeah, they did. Did you guys like the that really synthy piano sound? Was that
the Mozart sounding kind of thing going on? It sounded like harpsichords or something. Yeah,
it's like this tone of notes, like on like really hard on a piano or something, with like it put through a synthesizer. It was really interesting. The soundtrack had just come out just recently, Brose, March 18th through Water Tower Music. There was a standard edition 13-track release of the score, and just like Man of Steel, deluxe edition, which had a bonus disc with a mere 5 extra score tracks.
Is there a 30-minute notebook in this one? Or?
It's pretty annoying. Those 5 extra tracks are like 20 minutes.
Okay.
And also it's one of those things where, because it's on a second disc, even if you buy it digitally, it's on a second disc, they don't fit into the film narratively. They're just, 5 extra...
Just random spots.
The whole soundtrack's in order apart from those 5, so it's kind of annoying when
Have you listened to the soundtrack, Stu?
Yeah, I have. I quite enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good.
I still couldn't find the Elfman part. Oh, that's disappointing.
No, maybe it's on the second disc.
Such a highlight for me. I was loving it.
It's on the second.
Maybe it is.
I didn't want to fork out an extra $10 for the second disc.
Yeah. That's just indicative of this film. The things that you really enjoy are actually references to other things.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. In regards to alternate versions or deleted scenes, obviously we don't have much of this information, but something's come out on YouTube recently, Stu.
Yes, you can look it up on YouTube. It's called Communion, and it's on the Warner Brothers YouTube channel. It seems to be a deleted scene with Lex Luthor dabbling in the Kryptonian DNA blood, the stuff that was kind of confusing in the film, and it possibly seems to show a vision of Yuga Khan and his 3 mother boxes. Yuga Khan being the father of Darkseid. So it's got something to do with his reference to the fact that they've heard the bells ringing and they're coming, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's
fans should check it out.
Yeah, it's only 30 seconds long, and it might be one of those ones that turns up on the extended edition of the film.
Okay. Also, the only other thing we've got at this early stage, Brose, is the fact that there was Trev, I think 20 minutes or something shot in IMAX?
25 minutes in IMAX.
Did you saw this at IMAX?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I love the IMAX format. Did it look good?
The film looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, visually he puts a lot of effort into his films. It's just narratively.
So what were the key scenes that you can remember?
I think the Fall of Metropolis, again, but I can't remember the other ones because it was... the IMAX seats are button-numbing, and I was... yeah.
Brose, collectibles from Batman v Superman. Has anything come out yet?
I mean, much like Man of Steel, I guess I'm a little bit further removed. There's nothing that I would necessarily buy from Man of Steel or from this film, but the quality is really good, and I've been complaining, at least in social circles, for anyone that would listen, that the quality of, I guess, general release action figures has been quite poor over the last 10, 15 years. There's a real divide in the market at the moment between what is like a domestic release or a release for children versus a collectible release, like a high-end quality figure. Whereas I think the lines are getting a little bit more blurred, and that's you know, when it comes to action figures, the ones that become collectible are the ones that are consumed by children, because obviously 90% of them are destroyed, and that 10% is what is remaining. That's why Star Wars is collectible. So Mattel Movie Masters, I've mentioned a few times already in relation to films we've done recently. Batman v Superman figures are solid. They're a good-looking toy. They're $10, $12 or something, and they look great. They've done 2 series: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman Armored, Batman Nightmare, Lex Luthor, and Aquaman. They all look good. Hot Toys have done Superman, Batman, Armored Batman, and the Batmobile in that 1/6 scale.
The Batmobile from this film. Yeah, really doesn't get a moment in this film, does it?
It doesn't. It's but I like that. I like that the Batmobile's just something, part of his utility belt almost. It's just one of the things he has.
Bit underwhelmed with it.
It's not a great Batmobile either, but it's all right. Kind of combining Burton and Nolan in one.
Split the difference.
Yeah, they're kind of halfway between. But the Hot Toys look great. They look a lot better than the Man of Steel ones did. Weirdly, Mattel have released Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman as Barbies.
What?
Yeah. So
Wait, you mean Barbies and Ken? Or
No, they're all Barbies.
No, they're Barbie. Yeah, well, the Superman and Batman are male,
Right,
and
okay.
Wonder Woman is female. And it's weird seeing this Batman as a Barbie doll is kind of confronting. I don't know. It seems a bit bizarre. Lego have done some Batman, Superman sets. The Batmobile and Batplane feature, as among other bits and pieces. Funko Pop Vinyl, of course, are at it again. The last two I want to mention, I mentioned these with in relation to Man of Steel. Square Enix, again, doing the Play Arts Kai collectible action figures. Armored Batman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. These look amazing. They're a more stylized action figure. As I said, they're around the $60, $70 mark. They're great. And then Mafex Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice premium action figures by Medicom are the most beautiful action figures I've seen in a long time. They're 6-inch figures. They do all kinds of things. I mentioned they did they've done 2 Heath Ledger Jokers that look sensational. They've done Christian Bale Batman figures. They've done all kinds. But the Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman just look exquisite. There's about 40 of these figures in existence already. They don't do them in series by film. They just kind of release characters from various films ongoing. But they are beautiful figures. Anyway, have a look. I don't think anyone's going to be overly inspired to buy Batman vs. Superman action figures.
Time will tell, Brose. Thank you very much. Now, this is early days for good old Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb scores, Brose, so these are going to change, you would think, over time. Currently, as it stands right now, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, currently rotten with a score of 23%.
Oh, wow, it dropped over the week. Yeah.
Did it? Yeah,
38%?
33, I
33, yeah.
79 positive, 199 negative.
Wow.
So it's going to cross 200 in no time, you think?
Have you seen the audience score for it, though?
IMDb or...
No, on Rotten Tomatoes.
What is it?
72%.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Which has been the big story of this film so far, hasn't it? IMDb is going to change as well, but it's currently at 7.4 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, IMDb has a habit of dropping after a while.
Of course.
But I do think, again, with Man of Steel, there's a bit of a difference with us movie geeks, comic book geeks, and the more general audience are perhaps quite enjoying the absurdity of it. So it's come to that time of the episode, Brose, our traditional 5-star review system. I'm going to start over here with... Oh, wait a minute, he's not here. Sorry.
There's no Andrew. We'll start with me, shall we?
Yes, Brose.
I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed it a lot. I think the critics have missed the mark. I don't think, in this instance, the critics know what the audience wants, if that's what they're reviewing a film for audiences. There's nothing wrong with this film in terms of... It's not brilliant. It's not great. There's a lot wrong with the filmmaking process with this film, but as a piece of entertainment, it's entertaining. It's more entertaining than Man of Steel was. It's more entertaining for me than Ant-Man was. I enjoyed this film. It's not... Ant-Man was so vanilla and boring and middle of the road.
It was bland,
and bland. Good film, I suppose, but didn't excite me. This film had some moments that got me out of my seat. I liked Lex Luthor. I liked Alfred in this. I liked Ben Affleck's Batman. I really liked Ben Affleck's Batman. There's enough going on here that's good for people to check it out. I'm going to give it a solid 3 stars, which is probably the highest score it'll get on the podcast tonight. But yeah, I mean... Zack Snyder can't direct for shit, but he has enough going on here that his direction can't ruin the film. The actors are sincere, and there's some great performances in here. I recommend watching it.
You recommending it?
I mean, part of me, I think, wants this film to be good because I know I'm getting more Zack Snyder DC Universe films anyway, so I may as well enjoy it unless he...
Get on board.
Unless he completely messes it up, unless he completely shits on it. This is what we've got, so I want to enjoy them. So it's 3 stars. Trev wants to come in next, I think.
Well, no, I just thought that argument is that, you know, it's a superhero film, and, you know, it's okay, we should like it. That's true at an Iron Man. That's true at the X-Men. We're getting a superhero film. We should appreciate what we're getting, even though it's not what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
We're now at a point where every second film's a superhero film. Is it too much to expect internal consistency and
apparently
and a, you know, a decent plot, an exciting and fun plot?
The thing is, who can explain why Zack Snyder's been given this opportunity? Who can explain it? Chris Nolan, I could explain. John Favreau, I could explain.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi, I could explain. I have no idea why Zack Snyder he's been given the baton to run with when it comes to the DC universe right now. There's no evidence in any of his films that he could even do half the job Nolan did.
I mean, John Favreau back when he did Iron Man, though, made no sense.
No, but I can see why you'd give him the chance. I can't see why you'd give Zack Snyder
Iron
the
Man
chance.
didn't have it. There was nothing behind Iron Man. Like, go for it. If it doesn't
nothing to lose. Yeah,
there's nothing to lose.
Whereas
with Iron Man.
Superman, Batman, we're giving the keys to several kingdoms to this guy.
Yep.
There's a lot
They've
riding.
just given him the Justice League.
Yeah.
Why?
2 of them.
Why?
Yeah, well, he has talked about if we make a second film. So they're not shooting them back to back or anything. So there isn't actually a guarantee there'll be a second one.
So anyway, 3 stars. I enjoyed it enough, and there was enough good in this film that I walked out having enjoyed a piece of entertainment. You're right. It's not the film we should have got, but it's still good. It's still a good film. There's enough good here.
Stu.
I think I kind of agree with Brose. I mean, first of all, I really loved the first 40 minutes. Up until the extended dream sequence, I was like, this movie's great. What are those critics talking about? And then kind of the wheels came off, and I'm like, oh, I see. And there are just as many awful moments as there are wondrous moments. And for me, it's like this glorious car crash of a movie where you can't look away. But I liked the bare bones, and there are so many performances I enjoyed, even if it doesn't all come together. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give it 3 stars and say recommend
Stu,
it.
your review on your website, hoopla.nu, wrote, it started off, because I saw it pop up on my feed, started off with, it's a film. What, can you explain what you were talking about there?
I was just so stunned at that point because I walked out of that film and I was just like, there was so much excess on screen and I'm not quite sure how to feel, and I was elated by some moments and horrified by others, and thought some of the things, you know, Jesse Eisenberg, I thought that was terrible, but there's something. It's an exciting film because there's so many highs and lows in it, as opposed to, like I said, Man of Steel, which was just blandfest.
Conversely, the fact that Zack Snyder actually made a piece of film is quite exciting to celebrate, because everything else he's put out hasn't been filmed. So
You're surprising me today, bro. You really are. Trev.
There was something that Stu said earlier about this being a bit of a roller coaster. Some bits were exciting, some bits were scary. I'd say it's closer to being half roller coaster, half carousel. Just like suddenly, I think I'm on this ride, and then what happened? Why are there horses going around in a circle?
My mum's waving at me.
Yeah. Dad's really proud of me. But it's really. It's really so inconsistent that there were the things that I liked. Batman chewing through those guys to get to Martha Kent. It's a great moment, and it's Batman being both Dark Knight and heroic and in the shadows, but still pay tribute to one of the greatest Batman stories, Dark Knight Returns. And then he just goes somewhere completely rogue. And I think the other reason why I'm disappointed in this film is that in 2008, George Miller was going to be making a Justice League film.
Wow.
And having seen Fury Road last year, I am just weeping at the idea that we lost that opportunity, and we're getting
just the difference in talent right there.
Yeah, we are getting this guy who is really like Zack Snyder. The bits that he nailed, he was playing so far, like he was reaching to get those, and I think George Miller would have nailed those and been able to, you know, raise the rest of the film.
And he's Australian.
Yeah.
Would have been amazing.
Yeah. So I'd probably give it, I want to say 1.5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So not recommending?
No.
Funny that.
And now, the final word with Adam Zack Snyder Stolfo.
Oh, come on. What did I do to deserve that? The simple fact is that this film is every bit the conceited piece of junk that Man of Steel is. But at least this film has the decency to be marginally more interesting on a scene-to-scene basis than that one. But eventually, the massive weight of the film begins to bend and flex until the main event fight comes at basically the exact moment of the entire film's fiery collapse. It's all downhill from the opening sequence as Snyder once again barrels through exposition, desperately trying to give each disjointed scene its own quirk, whether it be a flashback, nightmare sequence, or just plain old forward motion to the inevitable 30-plus minute long climax. It's kind of a hodgepodge of scenes ranging anywhere from Lois Lane reclining naked in a bathtub to terrorism to post-apocalyptic visions of a society under rule by a tyrannical Superman, and virtually all of it is rendered completely irrelevant by the mind-numbing constant action of the last half hour that erases any merit or any creative merit, if any, to the 2 hours of setup before it. Many people are mistaking the disjointedness for a surreal or feverish tone, but I don't see that at all. All I saw was a film simply trying to do too much and never settling into a consistent tone or pacing. The variety of scenes made the film watchable in a chaotic kind of way, which is sort of what Stu and Trevor were saying. Batman vs. Superman basically attempted to tell at least 3 different stories from specific DC comics that are really more deserving of their own individual films, such as The Dark Knight Returns and The Death of Superman, and to lesser extents Batman Endgame, and even little nods to the Injustice Gods Among Us comic run. There is a lot going on, to say the least. Way too many iconic moments to brush over in one overstuffed 2.5 hour long film, and such its attempts at creating iconic moments of its own come off as half-baked or nonsensical. No single plot point or character is given room to breathe in this film. Batman v Superman also predictably suffered from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 syndrome, where its dedication to setting up future films has made the matter at hand suffer greatly. But to be honest, the core story wasn't all that interesting to begin with and motivations were shoddy at best. Zack Snyder has made another film bursting at the seams with content that makes you leave the experience the exact same way you came in. Snyder obliterated my senses, and not in a good way. He gives you nothing to grab onto. Snyder doesn't seem to understand that your images need contextual support beyond just, here is a thing, you understand now. And the script for Batman v Superman doesn't really help lift the imagery beyond this basic surface level. The power of simply seeing a live-action Batman-Superman slugfest is enthralling by nature, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy and feel the power of certain scenes in this film. Cavill is solid again, and a lot of the action is generally exciting, but the Snyder Squad sabotages everything. This is simply not a good film. What Batman v Superman has in scale, spectacle, entertainment value, it lacks in character development, emotional resonance, and narrative focus. It tries to tackle way too much to set up future DC installments, failing to tell a cohesive singular story and distinct character motivations. It's overly dour and serious, and for a big-budgeted blockbuster featuring beloved superheroes, we all deserved better. 1.5 stars and not recommended from me.
There you go. Wow. So, heavy stuff.
Didn't mean to finish it on that stuff, Brose, but
negative Nancy.
This film, my impression of this film is dropping like by the day.
What did you give Man of Steel?
2 stars.
So it's only slightly worse.
You think it's worse than Man of Steel?
Yeah. Or maybe I'm just more disappointed. Like as the
expectations.
We talked about the fact that this film kind of in part elevates Man of Steel by giving it context. So maybe Adam's gone back and re-recorded.
Yes. So look. People are going to have to see this, Stu, if they're going to want to go and see future installments if they love these characters and everything. Yeah. But I cannot recommend this film.
That's the problem. It doesn't matter. Won't recommend.
That's the problem.
You're going to see it.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I guess as something you have to do if you want to enjoy the Justice League films, if you want to go with that philosophy, it's not that bad. I'm talking about if it's something you have to do, like you have to eat your vegetables or you have to brush your teeth if you're a kid. But, if you have to watch this film, if you're aware that the dream sequences are excessive and far too long and ridiculous, that'll save you a lot of heartache when you're watching this film. If you're aware that Doomsday just kind of comes out of nowhere with no setup and is completely ridiculous and the type of sci-fi that audiences are going to resist, then, you're going to enjoy this film. So if you know enough about the shitness of this film, then you're probably going to enjoy it a lot more than if you had a completely open mind.
Or if you're like me and you're not a comic book guy and you've been given a lot of great Superman and Batman in the past... I don't really need any more.
Yeah, that's fair enough
that's
too.
It. So,
if you want to check out of the comic book film kind of genre, this is it.
Yeah.
I really do. Really quickly, I just want to say I do recommend though when people refer to the source material, save yourself the money of the ticket for the cinema. Go get those books.
Yeah, definitely read Dark Knight Returns and read the Killing Joke we've mentioned in the past.
Yep.
Year One, Batman Year One's worth looking up. The Death of Superman's worth looking up.
Definitely.
There's a good. It's worth looking up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's great, Stuart. Pulling faces opposite me.
Death of Superman is really not that good, but that's fine.
It's not great, but it's better than the bloody marriage of Superman and Lois Lane. Jesus Christ, what a stinker that was.
So, Brose, we might give Batman Superman a little bit of a rest now, but do we
have to?
But we're definitely going to come back and look at some of the great Tim Burton Batman films.
Richard Donner.
Yes, some of the
Quest for Peace. No. Okay, fine.
I think we might have to.
Suicide Squad later in the year as well will be featured on the Real Chat.
Yes, definitely. So good to have you, Trev.
It's been fantastic.
Thanks a lot, Stu. Thanks, Brose. We'll see you guys soon.
Okay, bye-bye. You can keep in touch with us here at Real Chat by visiting realchat.com.au. Check us out on Twitter at Real Chat Podcast, Instagram real_chat_podcast, and we're on YouTube, Real Chat Podcast. Surprise, surprise. And track us down on Facebook. You can hit iTunes for new episodes and check out some of our old episodes. Thanks for listening.